Hi everyone, it's Jorz again for moreev.com, and I'm doing a video review today for a relatively new player we have called Justin. He's a microstakes cash player, and he's successfully worked his way up through No Limit 2 and No Limit 5, I believe, but struggled a little bit with No Limit 10. I think he only lost 3 buy-ins last month from a whole month's play, so you know, not terrible. And it actually takes skill to only lose 3 buy-ins in a month's play. So I wouldn't be too disheartened if I was him. But as I said, I'm going to do a video review for him today. He sent me some hand histories as well, but I didn't get around to getting them to work it in my Hold'em manager. I think I might need to reinstall the program there. So I'm going to do the video first because I think it's just a little bit more interesting than a hand history review anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video. He's sitting out right now, but it's going to be dealt in to the next hand on table 2 here on the right hand side. So we'll be into the action quite quick, I believe. Squeaky chair. If your chair doesn't squeak, then you're doing something wrong there. You need to get some grit and stuff, you know, in the workings, and get a nice squeaky chair. Adds character. Just let these hands play through. I'm probably going to cut out a lot of the more, I won't say boring, but I will say kind of unneeded sections where a lot of the decisions are quite simple, and if he's folding every single hand for 30 minutes, I'm not going to sit through and have those in the video pointlessly. So he's got 9-10 offsuit here on the big blind, and this chap up here in the cutoff is just limped. There's no stats yet, and that reminds me I need to just open up an email he sent me with his stats in. So I'll do that now. Cutoff's limped, and I would just check here with a 9-10 off, because you know, you're out of position. You don't need to isolate because there's only one other player in the hand already anyway. I mean, he's raised, and there's potential that this guy could fold and he'll take the hand, which is situationally was a good move, but on the front of things, I think I would just flat there and see a flop and check fold if you miss. This is probably a better spot to raise, but he doesn't. He folds, which is fine. I mean, he does only have a 10-5, but that's a really nice flop for that 10-5. Not that could influence your decision pre-flop, but I think a little min raise just to put pressure on the blinds there would have been perfectly fine with a 10-5 suited there. And he would have missed, but I think he could have probably quite happily laid down some aggression there on the flop on the turn with his gut shot and 10 high flush draw. Over here on table 1, it's got 7-5 of clubs, under the gun +1 limps. So I'm expecting to see him just check it back, although the buttons raised it to 5 times the big blind, so I'm going to expect a fold, and yeah, I see his click the fold checkbox here, and I will suggest that you don't use these. Use these quick option buttons. I think it in this spot it's not so terrible with the 7-4, but here on the big blind, I think you should probably big blind and small blind especially just not use those buttons. Just as a rule. I would love to give you an actual explanation as to why that's that's beneficial, but there's more hands coming through here, so I will leave that for now. But it's just, as a rule, just do not use these buttons, these quick buttons here. Just gives information to your opponents. 8-2 here is pretty standard fold. If it was a real nitty guy here, I mean, he really doesn't look like he is, but yeah, standard, all standard so far, apart from the 9-10 offhand that he raised. Standard fold with the 10-3, I'm assuming, yeah? Okay. Oh, I see he's going to raise his ace-4 off here, under the gun +1, which I think is a slight mistake. I think that's an easy fold. I mean, you've got kicker problems if you do hit your ace. I mean, it's better to raise an ace-4, ace-2, ace-3 or ace-5 as opposed to an ace-6 or an ace-7 because you've got the wheel draw helps there too, but I think that under the gun +1 in 6 max, an ace-4 offsuit is probably... I'm just going to quickly pause it there. An ace-4 offsuit is not really a raising hand under the gun +1. I mean, I would raise it on the... in the cutoff if the button and the blinds were, reasonably nitty. And I'd probably put pressure on the blinds with a min raise if I had it on the button, but I think under the gun +1 is a little loose there. Also, when the flop comes down, 10 queen 2 with 2 clubs, I think there's a lot of potential for him to have a drawing hand there if he's got clubs, or if he's got king jack, or if he's got ace jack, or jack 9. There's just a lot of combination of hands that he could want to see a turn with there. So I think actually the c bet there was a mistake too. Let me just drag it back slightly, see if we can remind ourselves of the sizing. These are the kind of spots I'll probably cut out. Okay, so the flop's 75 cents, 72 cents after the rake's been removed, and I believe he bets 50 cents, which is another mistake as well, because I think it's a slight overbet, especially considering you have almost zero equity there on the face of things. Okay, so as I was saying, I was going to look up Justin's stats. He sent me an email with his stats in, so I'm going to go through those with you now for those who are watching that don't know. Let me just we'll just review this 7-7 hand before we go through those. So he's got pocket 7s on the big blind, under the gun raises 3x, under the gun +1 and 2 call, and button 3 bets. Looks like €1.10. And let me pause here. I think a call is okay, but I think I would prefer to see a fold here. Under the gun +1 is still to act behind you and could come in with a 4 bet there, and you'd be in a sticky situation if that was to happen. You're not only going to be out of position, but you're probably not going to want to call a 4 bet with pocket 7s in that spot when there's a guy who's been 3 betting on the button. That didn't make all that much sense, but I think you understand where I'm coming from. The original pre-flop raiser, is yet to act, and although there is an argument that if you call from the big blind there, the 3 bet, then it could start like you could set off everyone calling. These other 3 players could potentially see the value in the situation, and it could go call, which would be brilliant for your pocket 7s there. But if it was to go 4 bet, fold, then you're going to have to let go your 11 big blinds there, which I don't think is a great thing to do. So I would have preferred to see a fold there with pocket 7s, I think. But as I said, a call is quote-unquote okay, so I'll continue on from there and we'll see what happens. Okay, so the original raiser folds, and the play there in the cutoff, not the cutoff, sorry, under the gun +2 folds 2, mid position, waiting to see what the cutoff's going to do. Alright, so the cutoff, just pause. The cutoff calls as well, which is good news for us. But it's still not great news for us. I mean, we're out of position in a 3-bet pot with cold called a 3-bet, and the flop comes down with 1 over and a flush draw, possible straight draws, but can't imagine that anyone would be in there with a 5-6. Or although that said, you know, maybe someone could be in there with a 5-6 suited, possibly. Not really got enough hands on these players to really get an accurate indication of their ranges or anything just yet, I would say. It's not a terrible flop for 7s, so we'll just see what happens. I'm going to guess he checks. The 3-better could potentially just have a big ace here, but I think he's probably going to c-bet a lot of the time. When he doesn't c-bet, I'm going to assume he has a big ace hand, like an ace-king, an ace-queen, possibly ace-jack. There's potential there for ace-jack. This is a bit of a weird spot. I think there's an argument here to firing as the flop was checked round. And, you know, there's a lot of money in there, in the pot. There's 37 big blinds in there, so reasonably large pot. So I wouldn't mind a check or a bet here. So we'll see what Justin does. Looks like he's going to bet, which is fine. It looks like his sizing is going to be a little bit too big though. Yeah, 310 into 370 or so is probably a little bit too much. I mean, he takes it down, which is good for him situationally, but I think I would have preferred to see more of a 60% bet sizing there, so maybe 240, 230 would have been fine, and you would have got the information you needed with a bet of that size. If the 3-better was to call on the turn there, you probably have to assume that your excuse me, that your 7s are dead in that situation, and that he's potentially got a jack, maybe king jack, maybe ace jack, or maybe even just some kind of draw, diamond draw that he checked back. I mean, you never really can tell what people are doing, so we'll carry on anyway. Didn't see what happens there with the 10 jacks. I'm just going to drag that back. Oh, sorry, with the ace-9 suited. Looks like he's in the small blind. Yep. Under the gun raised 3x, I believe. Resolution's not great on the video, but it's enough to see. Okay, so he's going to 3-bet from the small blind with an ace-9 suited, which I don't like. Not a huge fan of that. To be honest, I think you know, it's an under the gun raise. You should really be giving under the gun raises credit. Also, this guy's stats 24-20 seem kind of reggy. So you know, there's potential there that he could flat call you in position with suited connectors and mid pocket pairs and all that kind of stuff. So I think a flat call might have been okay. It was quite an odd situation really. I think a call's okay and a fold's okay, and a 3-bet isn't terrible, but I don't really like it against an under the gun raiser there with a hand as weak as ace-9. Ace-queen here, under the gun +1, and under the gun has opened for 4x, and I would like to see a flat call here with ace-queen suited under the gun +1. No, actually I wouldn't. This chap here has actually limped under the gun +1. Under the gun +2 has ISO'd this guy, and I would like to see a 3-bet here, especially with an offsuit ace-queen. I tend to 3-bet my offsuit ace-queen, and occasionally, maybe 75 to 80% of the time, just flat call with a suited ace-queen. Adds a little bit of deception into the game. Bit of pot control too, so I would have liked to have seen a 3-bet here with ace-queen. But it looks like he's going to flat. Oh, No, there we go. Yep, that's absolutely perfect. So we'll see how this one plays out. And that's what we want. Take it down, very nice. Okay, I've just dragged this back here to the ace-queen hand so I could talk about it a little more. Didn't see that that the under the gun player here had limped, which would affect my decision with ace-queen. In that it's not an under the gun raise, it's an ISO raise from under the gun +1. Reggy looking stats, slightly loose aggressive, 27. I was going to go over the stats, wasn't I? So I'll do that now. So we've got the player name and total hands up on the top row. The second row down we've got total VPIP. Next one over is total pre-flop raise, and then we've got total steal. Second row we've got total 3-bet, fold to 3-bet, and post-flop aggression factor. On the next row we've got small blind, fold to steal. The next one is big blind, fold to steal. And the next one here is overall check raise. The next row down is flop c-bet. This next one is turn c-bet. Then we've got flop donk bet and flop fold to donk bet. And on the last row here we've got flop fold to c-bet, turn fold to c-bet, limp call, and the WTSD range in the last section there. So that's those. In the email he says that his user setup is shown to be the best setup for micro limit players in a video he watched by Beluga Whale, which is fine. He's a good player, Beluga Whale. I read his book a few years ago, and he's asked me if there's anything he thinks I should do or change to his HUD. The only thing I would suggest is that maybe there's a little bit too much information in there, but it's fine as long as you don't get overwhelmed with all the information there, and you can actually put it to good use, and that's fine. But back to the ace-queen hand. I would like to see a flat call with a suited ace-queen here, and I think it's standard to 3-bet your ace-queen off here to the ISO raise, and I would expect to see a lot of folds. And if he calls, we're in position with the initiative, so you know you'll end up being in a decent enough spot there a lot of the time. Okay, Queen Jack offsuit in the small blind here. It's a semi-playable hand, but we'll see how it plays out. Mid position, limps, and the button raises to 4x. So let me just quickly pause. I think I just spotted that he did what I would like to see, and that's fold. Queen Jack is a reasonably good hand, but not great, and I would tend to shy away from calling out of position as a general rule. Don't really like fatting out of position. If I was going to do anything with my Queen Jack there, it would be a 3-bet just to try and steal it pre-flop. But a fold is more than fine, so perfectly good. Okay, 4-5 suited, suited connector on the big blind, the button. It's a playable hand, so we'll see what he does. I'd like to see a raise here, and I'd like to see a min raise to 20. Seems weak, but I am a big fan of min raising for my steals on the button there, because when you've got weaker hands, it means you can steal the blinds without outlaying all that much cash into the pot itself. So I'm, like I said, a fan of min raising there on the button for your steals, all steals, even if you have aces or kings. I would min raise on the button there. It's quite deceptive. People don't really expect you to min raise with aces and kings. I mean, some people do, but for the majority of the recreational players, I don't think they expect to see a min raise there with the aces or kings. Flops come down Queen 7 King Rainbow, which I think is a decent enough board to c-bet here. You've got cards there that you can represent. You've got the kings and the queens there, which would hit your range, raising range there a lot of the time. And under the gun +1, who called your 3x pre-flop, has checked it to you. Excuse me. So I think it's a pretty standard c-bet here. I think if I can see correctly, there's 62 cents in the pot, so I'd like to see a c-bet of around 40 cents, so about 60% of the pot. So let's see what he does. Okay, so c-bet 50, which I think is a little high. I think 40 or even 35 cents there would have been fine. Queen 10 suited under the gun, sorry, I was going to say under the gun +2, but it's in the cutoff because there's a player sitting out, which is fine. Pretty standard, Queen 10 suited. Of course, raise with pocket 5s under the gun. Takes it down, okay. King 9 off on the big blind. Under the gun raiser, so I'm going to expect and hope to see a fold. And that's another situation there where I probably wouldn't use the quick fold button there. 9-10 suited on table 1 would be a raise, I would say. 3x. It's a very nice playable hand. In the cutoff there as well, considering there's a player missing from the table. So yeah, 3x, perfect. It's obviously quite standard. Okay, so big blind calls and checks the flop to you. Could be flush draws out there, but not something I'll be worrying about just yet. There's obviously an over to the king, but you've hit second pair. So I think you can either decide to check back here or continuation bet. I think there's again 62 euro cents, sorry, in the pot there. So I think if I was going to bet my second pair, I would bet 35 to 40 cents. But as I said, a check is fine as well. But I think you might even be able to squeeze some value out of some weaker hands with a small bet here. Seems like 50 cents into 62 is just in standard c-bet there, and I would say that's a little high, because the only way you're going to get called there is by possibly a flush draw, but mostly the only way you're going to get value there out of your nines is if he's, well, you're not going to get value from your nines if he's got a king, but the only way you're going to get a call to a bet of that kind of percentage pot size is if you're beaten. So I would like to see a smaller bet there with nines with a second pair, maybe even 20 cents, just squeeze like a little extra value. Nothing wrong with betting 30 to 40% of the pot just to squeeze a few big blinds extra out of the situation. Don't mind that at all. Queen 8 here in the big blind. I would just check fold, give up. Pretty standard situation. Over on table 2 with ace-6 off, there's an under the gun limper. So you could ISO here. Could. I mean, it would be the worst. Ace-6 is the worst ace you can get ace-6 off. But this guy has seen to be quite a limpy player. 44 VPIP and what looks like a 6% pre-flop raise is a very fishy player, so I think an ISO there would have been fine with an ace-6 off. Not so much as a standard play against the limper, but against someone who is clearly very fishy, I think ace-6 there is fine to ISO, especially with the added value of the blinds in the hand and your position. Okay, so next hand we've got pocket nines on the button, which is a nice place to be with pocket nines. Cutoff raises to 3x, so I'd like to see a 3-bet here. I would probably 3-bet a 3x raise to 90 cents or $1. So I think 110 is a little bit big, but it's not terrible. I think I would just raise to $1 and he gets a fold, which is fine. Okay, so we've got 5-9 suited here on the big blind and under the gun raise, so I'd like to see a fold, which he does. And we've got pocket 5s here on the big blind, and there's been an under the gun raise, a call from under the gun plus 2, under the gun plus 1, sorry, in mid position, and a very small weak 3-bet from the cutoff there. So let me just pause it a second. Weakish 3-bet here from this limpy player, and he's raising so little that I would give his min 3-bet there a lot of credit for a reasonably good hand, probably a very good hand. But I think because of the bet sizing and everything, a call here is absolutely perfectly fine. Because if he does have aces, kings, or a really strong hand like this, then you're going to want to see a flop with your pocket 5s and try and hit a set. And I would assume that if you did hit a set and this guy did have aces or kings, that you would probably take his entire stack here with pocket 5s if you did hit a set. So it's a perfect spot to set mine. Potential that this chap here under the gun plus 1 could 4-bet. As I was saying in the previous hand where he flat a 3-bet out of position. But we've got the history that this chap can raise from under the gun and fold. I mean, it doesn't really mean all that much, but it's something, I guess. I'll expect to see it go call here. So we'll see about that. Just moving on to table 1. He's got a playable hand here in the small blind. The cutoff is limped, and he's a very limpy player, so that's nothing really to worry about at all. It's just probably got a weakish hand he's just limping in with, wants to see a flop. And the button's ISO'd, and his stats are pretty loose aggressive. 38 VPIP and 31 pre-flop raise is quite loose, but he's only got 26 hands on him, so you know, isn't really all that conclusive. But I would like to see a flat call here from the small blind with 10-jack to see a flop with such a playable hand. So I'll carry on and play the track here. And he's 3-bet his 10-jack, which is perfectly acceptable. However, I would prefer to see a flat call there, just to see a flop with such a playable hand. You don't want to have to 3-bet fold if this button player 4-bets. I think although you can 3-bet your 10-jack there, it isn't terrible, but I think I would prefer to see a flat call with such a playable hand that's not all that strong but is very playable post flop. I would like to see a flat call there more than the 3-bet. I mean, I would 3-bet occasionally to balance my range, but as a standard I would flat call there with 10-jack. So let's carry on. He's missed the flop here with his 5s, and I expect to see a c-bet here from this player, because I believe he's quite strong. If he doesn't c-bet, then I would put him on ace-king for the majority of the time. And in this situation I would definitely fold my pocket 5s for a number of reasons. Firstly, you have third high pair to the 2 overs, the 9s, the 9 and the 6. but more so because you're going to have to probably face more bets on the turn and the river if you want to get this hand to showdown. And this player is to me showing a lot of strength considering he's such a fishy player. I feel that when a fishy player starts to actually bet and stops being passive, then would give me cause for concern. The old red flags would be waving a little bit. I mean, his total aggression factor isn't all that low, but with 22 hands, you can't really gauge that. I mean, you can definitely gauge the fact that he's a fishy limpy player with stats like 45 VPIP versus 5 pre-flop raise. But I think it definitely has to be a fold here on the flop. Even though it's only about 25% of the pot that he's bet, I think that it's a bit of a leak to let go 5 big blinds here in this spot, because I feel like on the turn there's not really much you can hit which is going to give you confidence that your hand is best. You could obviously hit a 5, which would be great, but I think you're just going to put yourself into sticky situations on the turn, not really knowing where you are with overcards and being out of position, so I would like to see a fold there. He almost folded, but that's fine. Now, that's not the worst card in the world for the pocket fives there. And if it goes check now, I would say that there is a potential that he has the best hand. But at the end of the day, this guy here could quite easily have pocket sevens, pocket eights, a hand that's equally not feeling potentially massively confident that his hand is a lock in that situation with an overcard and this guy 3-betting. We'll carry on playing the track and we'll see what happens. King 8 here to the cutoff raise, I would say, is a fold. He's got pocket 2s here. This would be a nice board. and this is the exact situation I was talking about. You've called now with your 5s, the board hasn't really changed, so you kind of sat there thinking like, well, if I called the first bet, then I kind of feel like I should call this bet, never really knowing where you are and all that kind of stuff. So I think a fold on the flop would have been optimal there. I don't know, just to stay out of this guy's way, considering he does look so fishy, and when fishy players start to bet, I tend to put them on a strong hand, especially when he's betting around 35% of the pot here. Sorry, around 30%, sorry. So yeah, like I said, don't really know what to do now. Now you've called the flop, and I think a fold here would be the correct decision. A raise with pocket 2s to 3x would be fine here, and he does make the fold on the turn, but I think you could have potentially made that fold on the flop. And something else I just want to mention, just drag it back. So yeah, one thing I do want to say that I've noticed is that I see he has the rabbit cam enabled, and he's hunting the rabbit on folds, and in this situation where you've hunted the rabbit, you've folded, and you see that you would have hit probably the winning hand with the boat there on the river. I think it's just best to not know, because it doesn't benefit you in any way, shape or form other than, or not other than, but it doesn't benefit you in any way, shape or form. It would only induce tilt if you were already upset and you kind of tank folded a hand and then you hit the card you wanted to see on the river, and you get to see if you would have hit or not. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think that the only thing that would ever do is induce maybe not tilt, but it would frustrate you if you tank folded and then you hit your card. So I'm glad that situation came up, because I I did want to mention that before, and that's a perfect spot to talk about it, considering he would have hit a both. But correct fold on the turn. I think you probably could have got away from that on the flop with the 2 overs. If the flop was 2-3-4 and you had the open-ended draw, I would have liked to maybe seen a check raise on the flop, possibly. But at the same time, as I said with this guy, probably playing a strong hand, possibly an overpair. Maybe a flat call would have been fine as well with the 5s on the flop if it did come down 2-3-4 or something like that. Standard fold there really with the ace-2 suited. Could have seen a flop against this fishier player. Would have been fine, but ace-2 suited is fine to fold in the small blind too. Alright, pocket kings on the button. I'm sure we're going to see a raise. Mr. Limpy up here has limped yet again, so I'd like to see an ISO raise of about 40 cents. So 3x plus 1. I mean, personally I raised 2.5 big blinds as a standard. So if I was playing, I would probably ISO here to about 35 to 37 cents, just to be really pedantic about things, but 40 cent raise would be fine. Which he doesn't. He seems to understand about the pre-flop bet sizing there, which doesn't shock me because he does seem to be a good player. And Mr. Limpy comes along, and the perfect flop for pocket kings. I'd like to see a c-bet here of not too much over half the pot. 70 cents is fine. I would have liked to see maybe 60, just to maybe just squeeze a little bit more value potentially. Because you want to get called there really by this fishy guy. Extract some value. Pocket threes. This guy here, who's looking quite tight after 50 hands, he's got a 10v pip and a 6 pre-flop raise. And you've got pocket threes here. You've got position. I'd like to see a flat call. It's fine. A fold is equally okay. I know that a lot of people will coach and suggest to fold 2s, 3s and 4s, pocket pairs, pre-flop as a standard, but I like to get involved with all my pocket pairs. I think it's fine. Some people would argue against it, but I don't mind raising pocket 2s from under the gun, for example. So I'd like to see a call here and set mine against this guy, not only because you've got position, but also because stack sizes, you've both got ish around 150, say 140 big blinds there, which would give me that extra incentive to see a flop and maybe try and set mine, just because, like I said, there's stack sizes. But he goes ahead and folds, and that's fine, but I would have preferred to have seen a call there. Obviously you missed the flop, but you would have had position and you could have maybe taken a stab on the turn if it went check, check, check on both streams. And this is definitely a situation where I would not really want to see a check fold. And he's kind of realised this guy's limped, and he now doesn't want this guy to see a quick check back here, which would indicate a weak hand, and I would most certainly not be raising here with the jack 3 to this limpy guy. I mean, there's a chance he could fold, but there's equally a chance that he could call, and if he does, you're out of position with the jack 3 off, which is not a great place to be. So I think that's an easy check back and just see a free flop there. And sure enough, player on the button's called, and now it seems like he's just going to try and stab at the pot and take it down. I'm going to guess he's going to bet 50 or 60, judging by what he's been doing before. And I think that would be a mistake. There's a lot of potential drawing hands this player could have. Any flush draw, any 10 jack, any queen hands, any 9 he's probably going to come along to, and just a bad 3-bet there. C-bet, sorry. Bad C-bet. Not really a fan of this hand. And sure enough, he's come along and called. I would expect to see a check here. a check fold and give up. But it seems like he's going to continue firing, which I think is another mistake. But that's fine. He's folded. So situationally, fine. But I think as a standard, I would definitely just shy away from making those kind of plays. Okay, ace 10 suited under the gun here. I would be raising 6 max. 30 cents is fine, but like I said, I would probably be raising 25 cents there. Personally, there's been a lot of discussion on bet sizing, pre-flop bet sizing recently, especially in the high stakes. I think a lot of the high stakes grinders are now just min raising, which I think is a knock-on effect from the fashionable kind of min raising that started to occur in tournament play. I think it kind of translated over into cash game as well. People over the last year or two, maybe even 3, have been consistently lowering their pre-flop bet sizing. 6-5 suited here under the gun +1, I would say there's an argument to raise. I think it's a pretty standard raise for most people. Nice suited connector. So we'll see how this one plays out. And he's missed the flop, but this player here is extremely limpy and loose pre-flop with his VPIP, so I kind of expected to see him call. A lot of the time he's going to be calling there, I would say, on the big blind. Flops come down with 2 clubs. There's potential that this guy could have a straight draw. But Justin's got himself a gut shot if he hits a 4. He could rep the king here, but I think as a standard rule, if you have a gut shot in position, you want to be checking it back. If it gets checked to you and you have a gut shot, you want to be checking it back. But it seems like this guy has a min bet here, which I didn't actually notice until just now because I saw it said call 10 cents down here. So I think it's an easy call. Just to try and spike your 4, and then also it's a float as well. I mean, what would this guy be min betting with here? Could have a flush draw. Probably hasn't got a king. If he's going to be min betting, he probably hasn't got a king. He might have pocket 5s, pocket 6s, which is made unlikely by the fact that you've got the blockers there. But you know, like a smaller pair that's less than kings, but maybe wants to see a cheap turn or gauge how you react to his min bet. I think a lot of the time it might be a flush draw. But you've got a gut shot and you've got position, and if you do float this min bet, then you can see how he reacts on the turn. So I think a call here is pretty standard with the 6-5, which he does, so that's great. And he actually hits the dream card on the turn there. Actually picks up the straight flush draw and hits his straight. So I would like to see a bet of around 50% to 60% of the pot here, just to try and squeeze as much value as possible out of this weak player. Looks to be 81 cents in the pot there. So I'd like to see a bet of maybe 55 cents. Something like that. Something to maybe keep this guy interested. But I think he's gone ahead and fired a pot bet there, and the chap folds. And he would have rivered his flush as well, so that's ace 4 suited under the gun. Fold is fine. I would very occasionally raise that, maybe 20% of the time, just to balance my range under the gun there. But I think folding the ace 4 under the gun is a standard move. Okay, a couple of hands on the big blind here. Jack 9 offsuit on table 1 and 10-7 offsuit on table 2. It's going to be a pretty standard fold if anyone raises. kind of expected this, looks like his name's Eurocopter, to call, and I don't want to see another weird ISO, non-ISO thingy from Justin there on the big blind, and I'm glad he didn't. And now this guy's betting, and Justin's got the top pair, and now he's got top 2 pair, which is brilliant. I would like to see a check raise here on the turn, which he does, so that's great. And hopefully this guy's got a strong jack and he can't let it go. So let's just see what happens there. He's folded. That's fine. I like the check raise there on the turn. It does kind of turn your hand a little bit face up, because a check raise on the turn is usually very strong, or any raising on the turn is usually extremely strong. But they played pretty much perfectly there. Pocket 2s from the small blind, and min bet from the button. I think you want to watch snap checking there. I'm just going to drag that back so you can see it again. You want to try and remove any timing tells from your game. So try and just take your time, because usually when someone insta checks, it means their hand's weak, and if you watch their instant check, and this guy's probably just going to c-bet and take it down a lot of the time in that spot. But the fact remains that actually here you've got pocket 2s, you've got 2 pair, and the chances of him hitting this board are actually very slim. So, and his aggression factor is what, 2? But he's a very loose pre-flop, so I imagine that he's going to be c-betting there a large portion of the time. And let me just check what these other stats were again. Flop c-bet. Okay, his flop c-bet's 50%. 50 hands. 50% is it's not high, but it's not low either. But when he's min raised button here and the flop comes down 377, that's a really good board for him to c-bet. It's a really good board for anyone to c-bet, but as he's the pre-flop raiser there, brilliant board for him to c-bet. So I think actually what I would like to see on the flop here from Justin is a check raise. For a number of reasons put together. One is that this guy does seem very loose, and he's probably going to c-bet this board with any 2 cards. And the fact that I would probably assume that my 2 pair with the 2s and the 7s here is the best hand, because it's a very hard board to hit. So I'd like to see a check raise here on the flop from Justin, just to try and take this one down. If you were to check raise with your 2s here and this chap called, then I would start to assume that your 2s were dead, but at the same time I think it's in the long run you're going to be making a profitable move there by check raising this loose aggressive player on this board, because he's if he knows what he's doing, then this is a really good board for him to c-bet with any 2 cards, and I think that check raise there would probably take it down a lot of the time. So 5-4 off, standard fold, and King 9 here on the big blind. I would like to see him check this back, which he does, but I saw that he did consider his little raise of the limper there, but I think that's a mistake, and I think you need to get away from making that play. It's just not needed at all, because you know, if someone limps and you want to ISO because there's other players in the hand, then that's fine with a weaker hand maybe. But when there's no need to ISO, you may as well just check and see a free flop there. 8-2 off on the big blind. Another situation where I would rather have him you know, wait a few seconds and then fold, as opposed to using the quick fold button and just snap folding. Similarly there with the queen high hand that he had, I think there's potential for him to actually just try and steal the big blind there. This guy's raised. I'd like to see a 3-bet obviously. How much did he raise to? Let's go back. So yeah, Queen 9 offsuit there. If he hadn't have chose to quickly fold, he might have just been able to fire in a bet and take a big blind there. So this guy's raised to 20, and I would like, bet sizing wise, if someone min raises, you should be 3-betting 4 times the amount they min raise. So if you're playing no limit 10 and they min raise to 20, you should be 3-betting to 80 cents there as a rule. So 60 cents 3-bet is a little bit a little small for my liking, but it's acceptable. But I would just hike that up. So the min raise bets, you want to be 3-betting them to 80 cents in no limit 10, and equally, if you're in no limit 50, you want to be 3-betting a min raise in no limit 50 to $4 from $1. So times it by 4 when they're min raising as a standard rule for 3-bets there. Dream situation, this guy has now 4-bet, so I think this is a perfect time to be 5-betting, so let's hope he does. Looks like it. I don't really think the 5-bet sizing really all that much matters, and yep, standard call, it's got jacks, and you've spiked a king on the flop. Oh, wow. Okay, so very nice hand, but versus this guy who's very kind of limpy and quite tight with his raises, I think it kind of played itself, that hand, and I think a lot of players are going to go broke there with jacks. So, yep, nice hand. 3-6 off here on the button is not the hand to be trying to steal with, especially versus these players with these stats. If they were extremely nitty players and this was all red, and it was 10-9, 11-5 or something like this, I think raising is fine with 3-6 just because you get so many folds. And that's where you'll make your money against these guys, is by just stealing their blinds. If they were nits, but they're not, so fold is more than standard there with a 3-6 offsuit. Pocket kings again, standard 3x. Let's hope it plays out like the last time. Would be nice. No, it just takes it down pre, which is fine. 7-6 suited here, I would like to see a raise, which he does, which is good. See how it plays out. Okay, so we got a call from the cutoff, and you've hit second pair on the flop. This is one of those kind of weird situations where it doesn't really matter what you do. I mean, you could fire a c-bet and see what he does, or you could check call or check raise or anything. There's a lot you could do. I mean, the pot's not huge and you've got second pair. The chances of him having a king are quite slim, and if he's got pocket 7s or pocket 8s, then obviously it's going to be best for you to bet because it could push him off because of the king. But it's a very weird situation, this one, actually, and this is one of the hands I'm going to put through Snowy just to double check on my thoughts on the hand. I personally would probably check here because he's not going to put you on anything. If you check now on such a dry board, he's probably going to think like, oh, he's got absolutely nothing, like maybe an ace-jack or a 10-queen or something like that. So this guy who's looking reasonably aggressive and kind of reggy looking stats, he might try and fire, at which point I'll try and extract some weird value out of him by check calling a couple of streets or something. So we'll see what Justin does, and he's going to bet, it looks like. Again, I think that bet sizing is a bit too much, because you're only going to get called by something that beats you there, and you're not going to squeeze any value out of an ace high or something like that. If I was going to bet in this situation, I'd probably bet around 35 cents into 72. So slightly less. Because now I'm just hoping that this guy's going to fold, which he does, which is fine. And I would suggest turning off your tawny alerts, sorry, because those things bug me. And especially if you're playing multi-tabling or whatever, then you're not going to want to have to deal with all these pop-ups and stuff. It can get quite frustrating. It's probably an option that you can do. In this situation, this guy is pretty much brand new to the table. So with that in mind, I don't mind a flat call just to defend the big blind here, but I think as a standard rule I would probably be 3-betting here with my queen-king versus a button steal. But a call, like I said, is fine. So we'll see how it plays out. Flop is a complete miss, although he's got the backdoor second nut flush draw, which is at least something, but I think a check fold here is quite standard. Seems like he doesn't want to let it go though. Come on, Justin, fold it. You know you want to. Oh gosh. Okay. I think if he was considering the fact that his queen-king was the best hand there, I think the only thing to do would have been to check raise in that situation, to check raise bluff. I don't like a check call because it looks weak. It looks very weak, and now you've completely missed the turn. What do you do now? You have to check again, and then he's probably going to bet again, and what do you do if he checks it again and you've got nothing on the river? Do you check again and hope that king high is good, or do you try and fire on the river, or what? So just kind of putting himself in an awkward situation there, in a pot that's now almost 24 big blinds. So I think if you really believed your king high was good on the flop, then you should have check raised, or you should have folded. I think a call is probably the last option there. So we'll see how that plays out. Pocket 6 is over on table 2, it's a standard raise under the gun. And he's checked the turn, and we'll see what this guy does up here. Equally, it's not a great board for someone to be c-betting here on the flop. So I would give this guy's hand a little more credit, considering there's not much he can rep there on the flop. But at the same time, we've got 2 hands on him, don't really know. But I think a fold would have been best on the flop there, and if in the given situation Justin believed that he did have the best hand, the best option would be to check raise, or at least the most defensive / aggressive, if you want to put it that way, option would have been to check raise to put the pressure on this guy and find out if you've got the best hand. If he was to call a check raise, then you can let it go. But I think, like I said, calling is definitely the worst option. And he folds the turn, when I think he could have easily folded the flop and saved himself some money there. But there was another hand I wanted to just quickly put through Snowy, wasn't there? So I want to drag it back to there and see. Okay, probably going to end up pausing this. Okay, so I've opened up my Snowy and got the situation here as it stands. There's no limit 10 stake option in Snowy, so I've gone ahead and done no limit 100. Just move the decimal point basically, so makes it kind of simpler to understand. But it will give the same information that it would if it was for no limit 10. So how does this go down? There's actually only 5 players here, isn't there? So it doesn't matter though. I'll just say that the first player here folds. So it's fine. Justin, what does he do? Raises to 3x, so let's do that. Over on Snowy. Raise to 3. And next player calls. And it goes fold, fold, fold. 6 of hearts, 5 of spades, king of diamonds. Alright. Okay, so Snowy believes that the best option here would be to bet. I think I remember saying in the hand in question that I might check there. But betting is definitely fine. But it is very close. I mean, if you look here, the expected value of checking versus betting is extremely similar. So I might check to just try to induce some kind of bluffiness by this guy here, but a check is fine. But Justin goes ahead and bets 5 big blinds, so I'll bet in. Bets 5 big blinds, and just play a fold. Oh, whoops. Just play a fold? Let's see, I can't remember. I think he does actually, I don't remember ever commenting on a turn in this hand. Earth to Windows Media Player. Okay, yeah, he tank folded, which is fine. Okay, so yeah, Snowy suggested on the flop that that betting was the correct option. But I certainly wouldn't have bet 5 big blinds into 7.5 big blinds there on the flop. I would have made it, I don't know, 3.5 big blinds would have been fine then. So back to the pocket sixes hand, he opens for 3x under the gun, which is quite standard. Cut off flats, his open, and the button. That looks like a min 3 bet to 60 cents. Yep. So easy enough call, I would say, because I would expect to see a call from this guy here, which he does, insta snaps. And the flop comes down, ace 4-5. So now I would say it's, as a standard, it is an easy check fold, and Justin has actually already mentioned this hand to me, and says that he makes a mistake in this hand because whichever villain gets involved in this hand, he's actually had some history with. But that said, he couldn't have had all that much history because he's got 52 hands on this guy and only 4 on this guy. So we'll see how this goes down, and I'll make my my comments. I think he's quite aware that he made a mistake in this hand though, so either way I think it's no big deal. If he's got history on the guy, then he's got history on the guy. But so he's bet 60 cents, which to me would look weak, but at the same time it could often mean that he's just trying to squeeze a little extra value out of you there by making such a small bet. So equally, like the hand with pocket fives, I would like to see a fold here, but I'm guessing he's going to call or raise, and yeah, he flats, but I would like to see a fold there on the flop. Turn just brings another over, which just makes life even more annoying and awkward for pocket sixes on that board. And pre-flop 3-betting villain is tanking and bets a third of the pot, which again looks weak, but again could also mean that he's just trying to squeeze value. So I think it's an easy fold on the flop there with the ace when he's going to bet an ace there. I think equally, like the hand with the queen king over on table 1, if he really believes his 6 are good against this guy in the flop, then it's he should be check raising to try and force a fold, but at the same time just learn a little bit more about your opponent's range. I think it's best to check raise the flop than call down 3 streets. So we'll see what he does here. He's bet about 33% of the pot. And he's going to flat call, which is probably the worst thing to do. check calling as a rule is something you really want to avoid doing. Check calling is probably the worst play in poker. So I think a fold on the flop would have been optimal. If you really believe that his sixes were good, then he should be check raising and not calling. Because when you call, you have to avoid 2 more streets, and yeah, pretty simple. And the way he worded this hand, I kind of expect he's going to try and call on the river here and catch a bluff or something, which he does, and he flips kings. So it was weird, and equally, he was betting weak because he was potentially worried about an ace. But at the same time, he could have pushed him off his pocket kings there if he did check raise. So yeah, a fold would have been optimal, but I think a check raise would have been fine, and that could have even forced him off his kings there, and he could have taken the hand down on the flop. So yeah, he played that bad, but he's aware of that. So never mind. It's just one of those hands. You just move on from it. Nothing to really worry about. If you understand the mistake you've made, that's way better than not understanding that you've made a mistake there. So that's fine. Alright, Queen Ace suited in the under the gun, sorry. Standard 3x raise. See if we can find a spot to get in here. Under the gun +1 folds, cut off flats the raise, so at least we'll get into some kind of spot here, because both these players are quite deep, both with just over 230 big blinds effective. And this player here, 6 hands, 0% 3-bet, but 6 hands. So my maths is terrible, but you could easily figure out the percentage that he's 3-betting there after 6 hands. It would be what would it be? Like I said, my maths is abysmal, but it would be 100 divided by 6. So whatever that number is. So I think a flat call here of the 3-bet is fine. I do not think I would be 4-betting. But at the same time, I don't think it's hugely terrible. But I think it is moderately bad to be 4-betting here in position. Like I said, you have position. So I mean, there's argument for trying to force out this player up here who's in the cutoff. But at the same time, if someone's 3-betting an under the gun raise, that could often be bad news. So I don't mind a flat call here. And we'll see what Snowy says about this one. In fact, I'm going to do that now. So just bring this over. Any way you look at it, 3-betting after 6 hands, he's going to have a high 3-bet percentage. And as I said, I would probably fat call because of that reason. And I would certainly not be 4-betting. And Snowy says that you should be, if I can drag it up that far, or I might just drag this down. Snowy says that you should be folding 100% of the time here. So yeah, a call will be fine against this particular player, but certainly not a 4-bet. And as a standard, Poker Snowy and GTO strategy states that you should be folding. So yeah, it looks like he's in a 4-bet, which would be a big mistake here, I think. But we'll see how it plays out. He could flop a royal flush, which would be fantastic. But yeah, I think a fold would be the way to go, or not a fold, sorry, a flat call here. And now under the gun, sorry, the big blind 3-better has shoved, and I have a feeling that he really didn't want to call here with his ace queen, but just you're so committed now when you 4-bet, you can't really 4-bet fold in this situation, I don't think, with the stack sizes the way they are. So got himself in a bit of a sticky situation by 4-betting the ace-queen there. Let's see how it runs out. Doesn't really make any difference, but sure enough, he was in a horrible situation there with his ace-queen versus ace-king, and ended up having really not a lot of equity in the hand at all. Spiked a queen, which is great for us, but I think definitely a flat call versus that particular player type, but as a standard rule, Snowy says fold. Okay, next hand here after the ace-queen hand, he picks up pocket tens in the, I was going to say small blind for some reason, but under the gun. Raises the 3x, which is standard. Under the gun +1 folds, cut off calls, button calls, and the small and the big blind both fold. Okay, so flop comes down queen 4-9 with a flush draw and a straight draw, and I think that would lead me to check here versus two players. You're out of position, and there's a potential for a lot of draws here. People's calling range can consist of queen jacks and king tens and king jacks and jack 9 for the second pair, and there's a lot these guys could have. So I think personally it's just quite a simple check. But we'll see what Justin does. Looks like he's... oh, no, I thought he was going to check for a second there, but it looks like he's going to bet. And he's going to bet 70 cents into a dollar, which I think is slightly over the odds bet sizing there. I think if you are going to bet, I think 60 cents is fine, maybe 55. But I think the best thing to do there, because the board's so wet, is to check for sure check. But he bets, and it goes fold call, which isn't great. And on the turn, I think there's nothing really left to do than to kind of check and see how this guy reacts. It's a very weird situation though. It would have been nice to see how he would have reacted if we were to check the flop with the pocket tens. But when you bet the flop and he calls, you never know if he's got a queen or not. So now you're in a kind of weird spot where if you check and he bets, then you kind of have to fold, which is a bit annoying. So I think it would have definitely been best to check the flop there. So we'll see what he does on the turn, what Justin does on the turn. Okay, so he tank checks, which I think is situationally the correct decision is to check. And villain bets half the pot. Now this again is a very weird situation. Not only has he had history with this guy, he might be a little bit upset with this guy, you know, out for revenge possibly. And I mean, I would like to see a fold here, but I think there's situationally and everything, I think that Justin might call here. But at the same time, he might have learned his lesson from the hand with the sixes and let it go, which I think is what happened there. But I would like to just see what Snowy thinks about that hand on the turn after he's bet the flop. I'm guessing it's probably going to say check, but I would like to see what Snowy says about the bet up here. So just out of interest. If you've not used Poker Snowy, it's a great little tool actually if you were for GTO poker. So what was it? He was under the gun with his tens? Yes. Okay, so he was under the gun, he raised the 3x, it went fold, call, I believe. Yes. Small blind, big blind folds. Flop comes down, queen 4-9. Queen of spades, 4 of spades, 9 of diamonds. And he bets 70 cents, and it goes fold call. The turn comes down to 3 of diamonds, I believe. Whoops. 3 of diamonds, yeah. And Justin has 10 of diamonds, 10 of spades. So 10 of diamonds, 10 of spades. So Snowy agrees with the check on the turn after it's gone bet call on the flop. And Justin did check, so let's go ahead and check here. And Villain bet €1 and €1.10. So we'll say that he bets 11, and I'm expecting it's going to say fold, which it sure enough does. And Justin did fold, so he made the correct decision there via my thinking and also Snowy's thinking. So perfect. Okay, straight into another potential spot here with ace queen offsuit in the small blind. Got only 10 minutes left of the video, and I've got almost 2 hours of narrative of my own here, so getting towards the end now. So this could be the last spot that we find ourselves in. And this guy's raised here from the cutoff. The button's folded, and this is the perfect time to be 3-betting your ace queen here. You really need to be 3-betting here. This guy has kind of reggy looking stats, maybe on the slightly tighter side, 16-12 VPIP pre-flop raise. Yeah, I cannot stress enough that this is the absolute optimal time to be 3-betting your ace queen offsuit. Not only are you out of position here, but there's Mr. Limpy has come along and limped, and this guy here is ISO raised the limper. So I think calling here is a big mistake with ace queen, but we'll see what happens. Flops pretty nicely and situationally, and it looks like he's going to. I would like to see a check here, just because they're not going to put you on ace queen just flatting, especially in higher limits. Down in no limit 10. I shouldn't say that. That sounds not rude, but almost. But in no limit 10, people probably aren't really going to be thinking all that much. This guy might be though, because his stats look kind of like he has an idea of what he's doing, but this guy's not going to be thinking about that, Mr. Limpy. So yeah, he sure enough checks. And he goes check check on the turn, which is fine. And I would like to see a small bet here of around 40 to 50 cents, something to just try and squeeze a little bit of value out of these guys that aren't going to call a big bet. They're not going to call a big bet, so there's no point in making a big bet because it's just going to force them into folding for the majority of the time. And yeah, so I would like to see a small bet here to just try and squeeze a little bit of value. I think 80%, 80 cents is far too much, and that's just going to force folds. So a couple of mistakes there in that hand. Firstly, and most importantly, should be 3-betting his ace queen offsuit there all of the time versus the limp and the ISO raise. And when it goes check 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 on the flop, you need to consider the fact that people aren't going to call a big bet there if they have got a 7 or a 9, something that they might want to see a river slash showdown with. I think you want to try and squeeze the value out of them by putting in like a small bet, something that they can call with a mediocre hand. Let's just carry on to the next one. 2-5 here on the button on table 1. I would definitely be, if it goes fold 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 at least, I would definitely be trying to steal these blinds even versus these reggy players with the 2-5 suited, just because they're not going to expect it. You can get a very a nice disguised hand with something like a 2-5 suited, and you've got position, so there's a potential for a lot of flops that you can see bet and just take it down. I think that's one thing that Justin needs to work on is his blind stealing. for sure, so we'll definitely go over that. Bet sizing as well, and I think pre-flop 3 betting is another thing that we'll have to work on. But that's fine, you know. We'll get there. Ace Queen offsuit under the gun, standard raise to 3x. And big blind calls. And this is a nice situation. His hit top pair with a really nice kicker. I might, if it was me and this villain here checks, I might check it back if the boards didn't have 2 diamonds. Or I certainly would check it back if the board was a little more dry here. And then maybe he's gonna bet the turn, and you can call. He might even bet like a pocket 8s or pocket 7s for value on the turn, and you can just call his what he thinks are value bets, and you can just call them and make a few pennies. But a bet here is more than fine with the diamonds. Again, I think that's a little bit too much because betting 50 cents into 62 is just going to force a bunch of folds, and you've got a hand here that you want to get value with. You don't want to get folds. So I think that's a slight mistake to bet 50. I think you could easily bet 35 or 40 in that spot, or equally check it down, or not check it down, sorry, but check it back on the flop and try and induce something. But this guy's check called here, so that would lead me to believe that he might have like a weak ace here, in which case I would definitely be making a similar size bet on the turn, percentage wise. Now that situationally, now that I've bet so big on the flop and he's check called that bet, I think that there's potential, like I said, that he's got a mediocre ace or potentially a diamond draw. So I would want to punish both of those hands by betting large again on the turn, which looks like what Justin's going to do, which is fine. That is a little bit high. 140 into just under 160 is what, 90% or so. Like I said, my maths is awful. So again, slightly too much, but I think there's an argument for the slight overbet there anyway, because he's already called a slight overbet on the flop, so that's fine really when you really consider everything. I would like to see another call here. I would expect another call from a weak ace. Might not expect another call from a flush draw by this particular guy, because his stats do look like he has a slight idea of what he's doing compared to someone like this up here. And equally, his aggression factor is very low, so there's a potential that he could be check calling here with an ace of some description. So we'll see how the river plays. I would like to see what's in the pot there. 423. So I'd like to see a thin value bet of around $1, maybe $1.30, somewhere in between there. Just something that if he had an ace that is just really going to want to call, you know, and equally if he's going to check raise, you can let it go for only just over a quarter of the pot. And also if he did have a flush draw, there'd be no point in betting anyway. So there's no point in betting another big bet on the river there, because I think you don't want to force a weak ace to fold. Checking back would be equally fine, especially because the pot is now you know, almost 43 big blinds. So checking back is perfectly fine. And he had ace king, so yeah, checking back on the river saved himself some money there, so I like that. But I think I would have lost a little bit more. I would have lost a little bit more money on the river, but I think I probably would have bet slightly smaller on the flop on the turn there personally. But that was a bit of a weird spot. This guy, I did notice that his aggression factor was low, which led me to believe that he could have an ace of some description. Certainly didn't expect him to have ace king there, so he played that. He played that pretty nice, I must admit. But nice check back on the river there by Justin. I think I would have tried to squeeze a little bit more value out of this guy in that spot, personally. So there's 5 minutes left now of the video. 7-6 offsuit here. If it was to go fold, 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 then I would probably just try and steal this guy's blind, even though his stats look kind of reg. His 3-bet stats is very low though, so I wouldn't really be worried about a 3-bet. He might flag call, but yeah, I like to put a lot of pressure on the blinds, and I think that blind stealing is going to be one area that I work on with Justin. Not to say that 6-7 off would be a standard blind steal there in any way, shape or form, but I think he's stolen the blinds so little that I would have probably just done it there with the 6-7 if it had got round to me. Okay, so let me just pull it back because I didn't really pay attention to what happened in this hand. So, okay. This perfectly standard steal there with King 4 suited on the button. And it looks to go call, which is fine. Flop's a complete blank, but I would say the board is dry enough to maybe c-bet, but at the same time there's not really a lot to represent. But I would say a c-bet would be fine. I would just make sure it was on the smaller side. Like 45% would have been about perfect there, but it looks as if he's firing 70 into 86, which is, I would say, a mistake. Because if you get called there, then you kind of stuck 7 big blinds when you could have only been stuck 3 or 4. So yeah, let's see how it plays out on the turn. And again, I will just reiterate my point about snap checking and timing tells. He was very quick to check back there, which basically just suggests to me that he's giving up. I think a wait and then a check back on the turn is a lot better to do in the long run all the time, as opposed to just snap checking. So we'll watch that again. Here it comes. He checks and there's a snap check there, which to me this guy's probably just going to bet the river now and make Justin fold, which would happen the majority of the time in somewhere like No Limit 100. They will pounce on that weakness immediately. The fact he has checked suggests to me that he has some kind of showdown value. Probably has a pair of 9s of something like this, maybe 7s. Could have a jack, but I think it's more likely to be a second pair kind of hand here. Looks like Justin's going to try and stab the river, which is, I guess, acceptable, considering the check. But it's a good job he didn't, because he was actually slow playing an ace-jack, which is surprising considering this guy's aggression factor is 4.8. But yeah, never mind. One of those hands I think definitely would have just c-bet less on the flop and then just give up on the turn and river there. Save yourself some money by c-betting less. And equally, I think jack high boards aren't the absolute best for c-betting. I mean, the board was very dry, but with when a jack comes out and you've raised, it doesn't feel like you're really repping much. I would much rather bet a flop with a queen or a king or an ace than a jack high flop there. And seems like this is the end of the video, winding down now. He's sitting out here, so I'm guessing he's going to sit out in a couple of hands here as well. So we'll just wind up these last few hands. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've picked up a few tips to add to your game. I'm talking specifically to Justin now, especially. But I'll try and get your hand history through Hold'em Manager. I'm really sorry that I've not got around to that yet. But the 2 times I tried already, I was pulling my hair out. Hold'em Manager is it can be a complicated piece of software, and it does tend to have some very strange bugs. So I will attempt that one last time, and if it doesn't work, I'll reinstall my Hold'em Manager and give that another go. But hopefully you've picked up enough from watching this video, and I've picked up a few areas that we can work on as well. So that's cool. 8 king. No, he's going to fold. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. So as I said, I hope you enjoyed the video and that you can take on board the things I've said. I would say watch it back a few times. Just to let it sink in, and we'll work on those areas some other time. So, good luck when you play again, and thanks for watching.